I bought a pub, which was the first mistake because the builder was going to turn it into two houses. It's been a pub for 500 years. Coaching in on the old London road just outside there, and the coachman would stop here and get out, and that would happen from 1540 onwards. And the thought of it becoming two desirable places for couples from Notting Hill just filled me full of deep irritation. I've put all of my experience and energy from my 30 years or so of Regeneration as a sort of petri dish, if you like, of my purpose and thinking into this 16th century building. And the bit's thin. My bit's 16 years on 500 years. And so the shoulders that I'm standing on are goodness knows, tens of thousands of deaths, of weddings, of birthday parties, of laughter, of jokes, of darts, of beer and spilt relationships and spilt drinks. The first thing I do, which is the first thing I would do with any regeneration project, is go deep into the history of that land. I would look at old maps, I would go into the archives, I would commission people to find all the people in the census that have lived there, the names of their children, stories, and I would probably, on any one of the multi-billion-pound regeneration projects that I had, I would know more about the history than anyone else on the planet of that site. And I feel that's both inspiration, but it's driven by responsibility for change. If you're going to suggest change for the next, hopefully 100 years, buildings don't get knocked down too quickly, and you do something special, it'll be more special informed by the narrative of the people and places and the architecture and the politics and the wars and the fights and the pleasures of that space than if it were just a cookie cutter scheme, which on average my industry, the property industry, delivers pretty much cookie cutter schemes, much more than it does something locally distinctive. The pub is particularly rich, like churches and music venues and public houses of antiquity and heritage fascinates me. They have a density of stories, of activity that is particularly spiritual and inspirational. So if you want to inspire your planner or your architect or your engineer, just talk about the great innovation or the stories that have happened in the past, and perhaps they put your project to the top of their pile because they're inspired by it. But the point of it is to share that knowledge, that responsibility, that inspiration, and let it infect lots of different professions. And so we might have huge teams working on our projects, and they've got lots of other things to do, and I want to use their best intellect, their creative minds, their energy for the vision that we have for any one of our projects. I want to infect them. I want to create a culture that has that responsibility but has that excitement, and they want to use their master planning skills, their urban design skills to do even better. And that's the sort of legacy that I want to leave when the projects are finished, that it is locally distinctive, it creates a huge sense of belonging, it stands on the shoulders of amazing history, and it has an even more powerful history moving forward. So the definition of regeneration is to make something physically and spiritually better. Lots of developers use the sort of history of place for a brand name, or a means of selling something, and it's an applied thing rather than an infused thing. At Mayfield, for example, in Manchester, So my pub, the Petri dish, is a small vignette. It's just a pub. It employs 54 people. Mayfield is 24 acres that will deliver 3 million square feet, that has a gross development value of over 1.5 billion, that had a public park built first, which is £23 million with the public park. The public realm came first because the most important thing. Then the buildings can grow around it. That's absolutely driven by the authenticity and the history of that place. Property by definition is local. It exists there, and it only exists there. So look at the storytelling, the people, look at the power of that place, and you're going to make a much better place. Because the combination of all of your intellectual capital is going to be inspired by it. The eventual occupiers will be inspired by it. It will create a better place. If you see yourself as the curator of a place that's just looking after it for a period of time, sustainably, as an economic unit, yes, you need to make business value out of that to keep the lights on. But if you just see yourself as a steward, and at a wider level, if the property industry, instead of saying, I bought that land, I put a picket fence around it, how many units can I get on that, how many square feet can I get on that, and these are all the boxes I have to tick, and how much money can I make, and then I'm going off somewhere else. If you change that philosophy to, how can I care for this? How can I improve things? How can I farm this land sustainably and beautifully in a socially inclusive way and improve the world? I'm going to improve the opportunity for climate issues. I'm going to improve the opportunity for wealth inequality. If you start with that sense of stewardship and wider societal responsibility, then you're going to deliver a much better scheme. And it's hugely compelling to tell a young person going into regeneration that you're the most important person on the planet. Because why? Property does 40% of CO2 emissions. It creates flooding and damage and other things that creates a huge socio-economic bill. You can sort out wealth inequality in the world. You can do most of the key things that will be transformative in society. I'm not talking about being a politician and talking about it at the top. You're a protagonist for change. You can make a really positive change to society and create beautiful spaces that last for 100 years, giving hope, opportunity in a sustainable way. If you go into your profession with that energy, you're going to deliver something spectacular and worthwhile. And yet it's still not taught at university, the purpose of regeneration. It's still not been any part of the curriculum in most property development companies' books. It's applied rather than infused.